Hi, Ramon.
Hello, Maria. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Pleased to meet you again, Ramon, over a live session for the Asian markets.
Likewise here, Maria. So what do we have today, Maria?
Well, today we start a new series of live sessions. This time we'll focus on each clause, a clause per session, talking about all the standards and how the ISO management system standard structure helps organizations actually identify the right management system or systems for them and how they can approach the implementation itself. So you remember previously we discussed different standards per session, or we focused on different topics of interest. Now we decided just to start a series of more technical talks about how to approach each clause and give our attendees a few practical tips regarding implementations.
Oh, that's just great, Maria. Well, I thought this is going to be a great session. That it's just going to be your typical discussion about ISO, which is kind of very general. I think this is a good opportunity for our listeners right now, our viewers, because this is going to be very specific if we are going to discuss the different clauses of which is standard basically to all the different standards. I think this is going to be a good opportunity for all our viewers now to to join in also and have very specific questions.
Thank you, Raymond. So let's start with a short history lesson. Why is it possible? Why can we do it this way, clause by clause, rather than standard by standard? This is thanks to a change that occurred many years ago in 2015 when the structure of ISO standards was harmonized. Now we all know that each standard has 10 clauses. Clauses 1, 2, 3 are relevant to the standards themselves. So if you go to iso.org and research each standard, you can actually read those three clauses, the first three. The actual implementation starts at clause 4. And Ramon, who is one of our area managers in the Philippines, is probably the first person that customers ask what we need to do actually to comply with clause 4. And here we are, the assessors, to help Ramon and our customers understand what is needed to be done. So how many times have you had the opportunity to smile and say, Ramon, guys, you have to evaluate your context, your interested parties, etc. every single time, isn't it?
Oh yes, every time.
Yeah. Why does it happen? It happens because this is the basis for our implementation. Clause 4, which is understanding the context, the needs and expectations of our interested parties, structuring our scope, and having a look at our processes is the foundation for every single management system when they start being implemented. Why? Because in order to identify later on risks and opportunities and so on, build on our findings, our operations, we need to know our organizational environment. And all standards have this famous clause 4 and subclause 4.1, which is the context, the organization. How do we manage to identify our context? So we have a look at what we want to do, and if we aim at quality management, we'll evaluate our context from a quality perspective. If we aim to implement information security, we'll try to identify all the factors, all the issues that may affect us internally or externally from an information security perspective. Example, for instance, we are working with 14,001, which is environmental management, and we are working with an academic institution, a school. What factor may differ from the rest of the factors? For instance, that could be demography. Why? Because in 10 years, we may have more or less kids attending schools. So this is a factor, an issue, external one, that in 14,001, why not, may affect our operations because we're an academic institution generating quite a lot of photocopies, etc. And the more students we have, the more copies we will print out, and the less controls we have, the worse impact on the environmental management will produce. So depending on the standard, when we evaluate our context, we'll focus on all the internal or external issues that may affect us. So, did I explain it clearly enough, Ramon? What do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely makes sense. I guess the question is that is this really a compulsory to document it? You know, this process that you mentioned.
Well, the standards do not, with one exception, do not require for clause 4.1 or 4.2 interested parties, and I'm going there straight away, to be documented. But we do have the obligation to know very well our organizational environment, to know very well the issues that lead to our evaluation, and we must be able to identify not only the interested parties involved, but also their needs and expectations. So this is why we actually recommend that organizations somehow document it for internal use, to make it easier for them to actually build up on something tangible. Except for 22.301, which is business continuity, the rest of the standards do not require documented information on those clauses. However, we highly recommend it. It makes it much easier. Because this way we can review quite quickly our interested parties, which are all the organizations and individuals that can affect our operations, and all the organizations and individuals that we may affect with our organizations. Why are they so important? Because what they need us to provide, produce, and cover generates can generate risks and opportunities, as well as what we do to affect them does the same. And then back to information security. When we talk about information security, I always ask organizations if they identify hackers as potential interested parties. And many times the answer, Ramon, is no. Which is not quite correct. Why? Because hackers try to affect our operations, our organizations, and we do try to prevent them from doing it. So we have to have them considered when evaluating the interested parties.
Interesting.
And hackers will not be that important, maybe, in other standards, in quality or environmental management, or they may be, we don't know. This is why we do this context evaluation and interested parties evaluation. As I say, it is not compulsory to have it in writing, but we do recommend it. Basically, it makes it easier for organizations.
Oh, I see. Okay. I believe that's quite an extensive explanation of this item. So can I deviate a bit about this,
Please do.
Maria? Yep. Is SWOT part of it the clause number 4, and does it require SWOT analysis?
Oh, thank you, Raymond. This is a very good question. Thank you. So, a SWOT analysis is something very useful, but it may also be somewhat counterproductive from time to time. Standards do not require for a SWOT analysis. Many organizations do have those analyses already done, and there lays kind of a counterproductive potentiality. Why? Because a SWOT analysis would work perfectly well as a supporting tool to our system if it is adapted to our aim at implementing, for instance, quality management or information security management or business continuity. If we already have a SWOT analysis per se, done because we had some financial interest in doing so, strategic interest, if it is not adapted to a specific standard, it may be counterproductive. So you are very welcome to do a SWOT analysis. You're very welcome to use your own SWOT analysis if already you have it. But please, when you do so, adapt it to the standard and review your weaknesses, your strengths, opportunities, and so on elements from the particular standard perspective. So this is how it could be very, very useful. Please make good use of this SWOT analysis. The element that needs to be documented, must be documented from clause 4, is the scope of our implementation system. So the scope is the result of our previous analysis on our context, on our interested parties, their needs and opportunities, on, if you like, a SWOT analysis. And the scope is that consistent, short explanation on what we will be covering with our management system. Is it the whole organization? Is it a part of the organization? Is it a department? Or is it a process? We need to commit to the standard or standards implemented and define the boundaries of our implementation system. So we actually summarize in a nutshell what we want to do, where and how. And this is important because the scope must be defined and documented, and must be documented in conformity with the standards that we implement. For instance, I said part of the organization, the whole organization process, not all the standards can be fractioned down to elements. So we have to be very careful which standard we work with. And then back to 27001, information security. Raymond knows that I'm obsessed with that standard, don't you?
Oh, yes.
So one of my favorite standards. So this is the ultimate example of that we can actually implement it for just in process, even across different locations, in different countries, in different departments. So that standard does allow us to implement within one part of our organization. This is important because a huge organization may not need to protect all the whole organization itself from information security threats, but a specific part. So this standard will be implemented where we need it, exactly where we need it.
Great. Oh, well, I think that pretty much covers clause 4. Thank you very much for that great explanation on the coverage of clause 4.
Thank you, Ramon. So these are the main elements, including also the commitment to define our processes and keep them documented depending on our own decision, but we must also be able to produce evidence of our processes. So this is clause 4. We focus on our environment to establish what we want to do, to commit to doing it, and evaluate the initial elements, the initial inputs on which we base our strategic thinking further on down the clauses to identify our risks, our opportunities, all the resources needed, and to articulate later on our operations. So, Ramon, thank you very much for organizing this meeting and for having me with you guys. I hope that we have given some tips to our listeners, and we will have them back with us in 3 weeks. I think we have a session. Something like
which clause are we focusing on?
yeah.
In 3 weeks' time?
We'll be focusing on clause 5, which is leadership, and we'll give you practical tips on how senior management should get involved, what the standards expect them to do in order for the implementations to be successful. We'll focus on the policy, its importance, how we can communicate most efficiently our policy or policies, and how we can assign in an efficient way roles, authorities, and responsibilities within the organization. So next session, we'll focus on clause 5, leadership.
That's great. I'm sure there's going to be lots of listeners who would like to join us again in the next session. I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting coverage for clause 5.
Clause 5.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ramon. And please, if you have any questions, contact us at marketing@imsm.com, and we'll answer your questions and give you further support. So thank you again. And Ramon, have a lovely evening there over the Philippines.
Likewise to you. Thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Ramon Blanco. I'm area manager of IMSM Philippines, and I hope to see all of you again in the next session 3 weeks from now. Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Great. Thank you. Bye. Caroline, can you please take over now? Thank you.